Hey everyone, Charles here. This week's episode is titled, I Can Fix Him, and features my personal therapist, Renata Cerveira. I started seeing Renata over 10 years ago when she was my ex-wife's therapist and then our couple's therapist. Now, the marriage didn't survive, but I think Renata only deserves about 49% of the blame, while my ex-wife gets 50% and the remaining percentage is completely on me. That's a joke that I hope both of them can appreciate. One thing I can say for certain is that Renata has never said, I can fix him about me or anyone else. I'm sure she understands, as I do, that no person is capable of fixing another person. Most of us aren't even capable of fixing ourselves unless we really, really want to. So my message to you, dear audience, is never be the person that tries to fix someone. And also try really hard not to be the person that someone else feels a burden to fix. The only time you should ever say, I can fix him, is when you're looking in the mirror. Welcome to the Mindfully Masculine podcast with Charles and Dan, where we take a conscious, holistic, and direct approach to relationships, mental health, and self-improvement. For additional content, visit our website at mindfullymasculine.com. And to interact with us, our guests, and your fellow listeners, join the Mindfully Masculine group on Facebook.
Good morning, Charles. How are you?
Oh, Dan, I am. It's been a busy day.
Already?
It's early. I bought a bicycle.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
I need it for my upcoming triathlon. So I bought the cheapest one I could find and we'll see if it's safe. The other thing is my experiment with growing tomatoes didn't go so good. Because of the cold weather we had here in Florida, they stayed on my desk too long and died. So I threw them in the garbage today.
Oh my gosh. Are you sure that's just not some sort of manifestation of you not wanting to eat tomatoes? Did you will them to die? Is that what happened?
Oh, if I only had that power, that would be totally worth it to discover that I had that ability. That'd be amazing. No, it was bad timing. So I'm just going to go to the farmer's market after we're done today and go find some there and give it a shot and see how it goes.
Oh, so you're cutting to the chase. You're no longer going to grow them. You're just going to go right to buying and eating them.
Correct. That's the plan now.
Okay. Maybe this is just the process you needed to go through.
Maybe. So, okay. What else? Oh, so I threw away all the tomatoes and I took the giant pot that I bought to grow them in and the giant bag of fertilizer. And I bought some wildflower seeds and planted those. So I'm going to have some pretty wildflowers around my place.
I like that. Very nice. Yes. That'll add to the outdoor living area for sure.
Correct. Exactly.
Yeah, that'll be nice.
So I'm sure it'll be very romantic for me to sit and stare at the fire and the flowers next to me. It's going to be amazing. What's going on with you?
What's going on with me? Let's see. I'm looking forward to another dance lesson this afternoon.
Yeah, me too.
And then this evening we have the Valentine's dance. So are you still going to be my date?
I mean, unless a better offer comes in the next 8 hours, I guess I am.
I'm just thinking. Tick.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes. The last dance outing was not super encouraging, but we'll see how this one goes.
Hey, yeah. I mean, this one, it's going to be a little darker, so you'll be able to slip out with like a little less people noticing. So I think
I like that.
I think that'll work. That'll work for you. Yeah.
All right. Well, let me introduce our guest for today's episode. We just recently recorded one with your dad like 2 days ago.
Yeah.
So so far we've done 2 interviews. This will be our third, all with mental health professionals. So I think it's safe to say you and I are. Well, I'm pro therapy and you're along for the ride. I really enjoyed that part where I asked your dad if he considered it a failure as a father or as a therapist that you've never been in therapy.
Yeah, full disclosure, I did tell him you were going to ask him that before in advance. Yeah,
that's fine. I mean, I didn't want him. I didn't want him to start crying immediately.
I was hoping he was going to have a little bit of a wittier response, but it was.
Well, I mean, bringing the wit is my job, not anybody else's.
Fair. Yeah, so I mean, I was really happy with the interview, and I thought it went really well.
Okay, so today we have my therapist, who I've been seeing off and on probably off a little more than it should have been, and on not quite as much as it was required. Renata is with us and has agreed to let us ask her some questions, and has disagreed for me asking her some specific questions. I'm going to ask anyway, and we'll see what happens.
Oh, excellent. I can't wait to turn the table. I mean, fully interview you on the interview.
All right, Renata, say hi to everybody.
Welcome, Renata.
So I am on.
Yep, you're on. So tell everybody who your favorite client is.
Oh, that's a very difficult question. Well, Charles, stop that. I told you I was not going to expose anything on this podcast that wasn't strictly mental health. No, I can't do that, because all of my clients are going to hear this and they're going to be so jealous. You know, they're
okay,
all.
So, I mean, that non-answer is answer enough for me. Dan, you know what she's saying. You can read between the lines, right?
Yeah.
I think Dan is my favorite client.
There we go. The non-client is the favorite client. Yes.
All right. So Renata, I've seen you off and on for the last 10 years. Usually my coming back regularly is initiated by some sort of crisis that I've created. Would you say that's fairly common with your clients?
Yeah. I mean, first of all, I'm honored to be here. You guys are awesome. I'm really enjoying this. Hopefully you guys are going to have like so much success. I really enjoy this. I agree with everything you guys are doing. So it's pretty hard to get me to do stuff like this, because I'm a busy girl, as both of you know, and but I really enjoy what you guys are doing, what you guys are presenting. So I'm really honored to be here, not only as your therapist, but as a guest of this beautiful podcast. So
thank you.
Here's to that. With my espresso always, and
here's with my coffee. Yes.
So, we gotta go for it.
Yeah.
So it's pretty amazing to be here. So thank you for inviting me. I'm really happy to be here. What was your question, Charles? Oh,
my question is, do most people come to you because they've created or have suffered some sort of problem? From the other therapists we've talked to, not a lot of people decide to start therapy because everything's going great and they just want to go a little bit better.
Yeah, well, that is always kind of what I say to all of my clients when they come in. They come in because something horrible is happening, but at the end of the day, that horrible thing that it's happening is not really why they're in therapy. Because as we go through the process of therapy, we discover all kinds of things that are kind of hidden, all kinds of things that are kind of sleeping and creating those issues that they're going through. Yeah, but most of my clients don't come to drink coffee with me. They come because there's something happening that it's shaking their world, and they're upset about, or they're mad at somebody else. Usually they're not really mad at themselves. It's really rare that a person comes in because they think it's their fault. They come in because they think it's somebody else's fault. Does it sound familiar?
Not. I mean, obviously that's not my experience, but I can understand how other people might go through something like that.
Exactly.
No, yeah, totally. I think. I mean, most of the time, the thought is not what got me here. It's what can I do to soothe my pain? I mean, that seems to be the main thing of I'm in the middle of something and it really hurts. So what can I do to stop making it hurt? And the answer is usually you can't do anything to stop making it hurt. All you can do is, learn ways to get stronger so that you can deal with it better.
Yeah, because I do think therapy hurts more.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, therapy is not like, so if your goal is to come to therapy and feel good, that's the wrong place to be. You're not going to feel good. You're going to feel bad until you feel good. So, and it might take some time for you to feel better. So I believe that is the misconception that people have. They come in thinking things are going to be okay in a very short period of time. And that really doesn't happen. It doesn't happen at all.
I did have a thought this morning when I was in the shower that occurred to me and I wanted to ask you about.
Cold shower?
No, it was not a cold shower. Renata is a big advocate of taking cold showers, and between some back pain I had and then some really cold weather, I have been slacking on the cold showers big time. I'm keeping up with the other things that keep me sane, but the cold showers, that's a hard habit to develop. Go ahead, Dan.
Side note, I'm going to interrupt on the cold showers. I was just listening to another podcast. Yes, Charles, I was cheating on you. And they were talking about the benefits of cold therapy and what they have done some solid scientific studies to show that that cold therapy actually raises your baseline dopamine levels 2.5 times, the same amount as cocaine, but this will last for 3 hours after this cold exposure. So the studies that they were doing, people were in cold water for, up to an hour, but it still, there is benefit with shorter periods of time through cold showers and just hopping in there and stuff. So it releases adrenaline and norepinephrine and dopamine and all of those things, and raises your baseline. And the other interesting thing is you don't crash afterwards the way you do off of like drugs and things like that. So once I heard that, I'm like, okay, I need to hop in that 60-degree pool every once in a while.
Oh,
look at that. See, now Charles is going to believe me. See, because he always needs some other study or some other thing in order to confirm what I'm saying. So I know from this point on, he is going to be now like, okay, maybe I should take the cold showers. I'm telling you, cold showers are the best.
The lesson I picked up was I can skip the cold showers and just start doing cocaine. Renata, do you endorse that message?
Yeah, Dan, I loved how you kind of researched that. It is a very true statement. And for whoever is listening, it's the best thing to overcome issues that you're having, because this is what I explain to my clients. If you can if you can overcome a cold shower, you can overcome anything. So your mentality, as the point that you wake up and you take that shower, you go like, okay, that was super hard. That was horrible. But if I did that, I can do all kinds of things later on in the day. So that's the goal behind it. So I advise people to take cold showers in the morning.
I like that.
Oh.
All right. So, okay, I'm feeling more pressure to do it. So mission accomplished, everybody. Thanks. So here's the thought that I had. When you decide to pursue any kind of self-improvement or personal development through reading books, going to therapy, whatever. One of the things, at least with the kind of books Dan and I focus on, we've been reading, one of the things you start to notice is mistakes you've made in the past and ways that you've fallen short in the past. And with some of those good feelings of, hey, I'm learning new things, I'm improving myself, there's a bit of guilt that comes with that too, where you look back and think, oh man, I can't believe that I treated this person that way, or I used to act this way, and now I see why I shouldn't act that way. So where does guilt fall into the whole process of self-improvement and therapy, and how do you address continuing to move forward with not getting stuck looking back at all the stuff you're not proud of?
Okay, well, first of all, I do believe it's very important to look back. To begin your process in therapy, it's important to know history. It's important to know why you feel a certain feeling. And from that point on, guilt is going to come up. But guilt is every day in our lives. Like, you can be guilty about anything that you've done this morning, like not taking the cold shower, and you go like, okay, well, now I feel guilty. I didn't do that. I should have done that. I mean, if you always go back to that, then you really never progress. You never go forward, because you get stuck only in the things that you didn't do. So my goal is for us to focus on things that we can do and not things that we didn't do, because we can't really redo things. We can learn new strategies and do them as we go forward, but we can talk about things that we didn't do and things like that, and that we regret, but we can't really be stuck in those moments, because we can't fix them. Right. Unless you do, amends and things like that, which also we could fix certain relationships, not fix relationships, but fix that specific problem. So, for example, I had an issue with Dan 15 years ago. So I write him a letter, or I say, hey, or I invite him out for coffee and say, hey, Dan, remember when I did this to you? I'm sorry, or I wasn't in the right mind space or whatever. So, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to feel guilty anymore about that specific issue. But I think that you can move forward, or you can just move forward, but writing on a piece of paper and burning it. There's different like symbolisms and rituals that we can do for guilt.
Okay, thanks.
So, quick question. I want to interrupt here for Renata. Those are some great tips for feeling guilt. I think over some probably some significant circumstances that may have happened in our past. But I find myself from now and then feeling guilty. Let's say, like you were kind of illustrating about, maybe not doing my exercise routine first thing in the morning, maybe not eating the way I wanted to yesterday. And then my brain sometimes will kind of ruminate over that and kind of go through that and again, kind of continue with that feelings of guilt. Do you have any advice or any thoughts on how to kind of break that cycle, how to stop, how to not necessarily to remember that you did that so that you can learn from that, but yet not dwell on it?
Yeah. Well, I haven't heard the interview with your dad yet, and I'm fascinated about hypnosis. So I really love that. So my strategy with that is that your brain believes everything you say. Your brain is like a child. So if you tell a child anything, they will believe it. So if you practice telling your brain the truth of the moment, your truth, for example, you say, I didn't take a cold shower this morning. I'm going to pick on you, Charles. I'm sorry.
Go for it.
I didn't take a cold shower this morning, but I will take a cold shower now. So you can educate your brain to believe that you will do that task. And actually you do that task, and you just tell your brain about guilt, for example. If you're guilty about something you can't fix, for example, something you've done, but the person has passed, there's no way you can fix it. There's no way you can go back to it. But you can educate your brain through self-hypnosis, which I really like, to believe something else. Your brain can believe something else. And that happens a lot in police reports and things like that. Sometimes you are guided to believe something. For example, if I sit down and I say, oh, so did you see that man? Did you see that tall man? The person who maybe haven't seen that person is going to say, oh yeah, I remember that, because your brain creates an image. When I'm saying that right now, both of you and whoever is listening is also thinking of a tall man. Everybody has a different image, but your brain goes to an image. So you can educate your brain to believe whatever you want your brain to believe.
I like that.
Yeah, we talked about that a few episodes ago, Dan, with the positive affirmations, and I downloaded that app that I've been using that gives you affirmations, and the problem I had with some affirmations was, depending on how bad you're currently feeling, some of them can be too big of a leap for you to actually talk yourself into.
Right.
And so I started modifying some of them a little bit to just say, instead of I believe I am worthy, when you're feeling bad, you don't believe that you're worthy. And so I change it to, I'm probably more worthy than I feel right now.
Yeah.
And that was a lie I was able to sell myself.
But I think that's great, because that's where it starts you in the right direction, at least. Yes. Right. And then you can build from that. So once you start to feel a little bit better, maybe physically, internally, then maybe you're a little bit more open to getting to the next statement, which is I am worthy. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
I love those affirmations. I'm a true believer in them. And they do sound a little tacky. Go like, oh my gosh, do I really need to repeat that to myself?
Right.
But it's a process. Like, the more you repeat it, the more your brain believes it. And the more your brain believes it, the more you become. So it's just a domino effect. So it's fascinating to me. I love it.
Yeah. Along those lines, real quick, just wanted to offer, I was listening to another podcast, personal development coach, and basically she was talking about acting as if you were already that type of person, and what kinds of things would you be doing? How would you be carrying yourself? How would you walk? How would you talk? If you were like an actor who was somebody who was, felt that they were worthy, what would that look like in your brain? And start to do some of those things that, if you were playing a part, what would in a play, what would you be doing? And, you're then helping support and reinforce that thought and that identity that you're trying to become. And I've done that a couple of times. I've found it pretty powerful.
It is amazing. That reminds me of a story. When I first started my career, we had to do a lot of presentations and workshops and things, in order to get our names out there and things like that. And I had a partner that went with me to all kinds of different places, and we would just give presentations. And I am not a person who prepares anything. I am very in the moment. I don't prepare my sessions. I don't have an agenda. I don't know. I show up and that's it. Like I never prepared for this. It is just me. And I remember my partner in the car driving and she'll go like, oh my gosh. So we're going to talk about depression. Are you ready? Like, and I'm like, no. And it's just, what do you mean? Like, well, I don't know. Like when I show up, I'll show up. I know about depression. So I'll just talk about it. And she says, well, but what about if they have a question? What about if well, then I answer the question. And I told her once, and I said, when you believe what you're saying is right, whoever is listening to you is going to believe it's right. So you just have to impose your voice in a certain way. You have to carry yourself a certain way. And whatever you do and say, whoever is listening is going to believe it. And of course, you're going to give the correct information. You're not going to say something random. But I believe that what you're saying then is very true. Like when you believe, what if, like you act as that person, like you act as you have a lot of experience, so you show up. And I remember after that specific presentation we had, she looked at me, she says, how do you do this? I'm like, well, I just believe I know. And I know because I believe I know. So it's a cycle. And I believe that anybody can do that. So if
I agree that it's definitely a cycle. One of the questions I've been asking myself a lot recently, when something comes up and I'm not sure how to handle it, I ask myself, how would the healthy man I want to be a year from now handle this issue?
Exactly.
And by asking myself that question and then doing that thing, I'm kind of ensuring that a year from now, I'm going to be that guy that I'm looking forward to today.
Yeah, exactly.
And I don't always pull it off, but every time that I remember to have that thought, it definitely feels like I'm steering myself in the right direction.
For sure. Because you believe in yourself. So what happens? Your brain believes in you. And it's the domino effect. Your brain believes, you believe, so you just act. So it's
and you're also so much more likely to get a positive result when you think about things that way. And then when you get those wins add up. And when you have enough wins, you start to feel like a winner.
Exactly. It goes round and round and round. So the more you practice, the more you believe, and also we got to remember that people who are watching you or people who are listening to you, like I said before about the brain, they have an image. So if when you show up and you are confident and they are going to remember you as that person, maybe they're not going to remember anything you said, but they're going to remember, oh, that person walked in and he was confident and I'm sure he knows what he's doing. You know what I mean? Because that's the association the brain does. So it's fascinating. I love it. I can talk for hours about this.
And we'll make sure that you do. Okay, so I wanted to ask a little bit more about your background, because as I said, I've been seeing you for about 10 years. How long have you been doing therapy?
Oh gosh, 20 plus.
Wow, you don't look old enough for that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. How old were you when you decided you wanted to be a therapist?
Well, okay, so I always knew as a little girl, I was always a leader. I was always somebody who had the ideas, who had, the games we were going to play, the things we were going to do. And I always knew that would be what I needed to do in my life. So I was very determined, always, since little, always determined. And first I thought I was going to be a doctor. I wanted to help people. I wanted to help people go through recover. And then I realized that I needed to do with blood a lot, and I'm not so good with that.
Yeah.
So I said, nah, that's not what I want. So pretty early on, I decided I was going to be either a psychologist, a therapist, a psychiatrist, something related to the mental health, brain. I'm fascinated about the brain. So very early on, I was never the kind of person who switched. Oh, I want to be an engineer. Oh no, I want to be a lawyer. No, I want to be a therapist. No, I will always wanted to be either a doctor. Then the blood situation happened. I'm like, no, then therapist, and that was it. I never switched any. I was never jumping around or anything like that. So I graduated very early. I was about 16 when I graduated.
Wow.
Yeah, and I started college right away. I never took a break. I'm very hyper, like very eager to learn. And I never stopped after that. So I went from one thing to another, and here I am. And I don't like labels. So I don't continue on because I don't want to be a PhD. I know it sounds horrible, and don't follow my advice on this.
Yeah, Dan and I are both very disappointed in you. if you get a PhD, will your rates go up? Because if so, don't do it.
Can you get rid of some of the degrees?
I have a bunch of degrees. I have psychology, anthropology, sociology, school counseling, and mental health counseling. So I have a bunch.
Anthropology, you said. Yeah. Interesting. So how do you tie in your education for anthropology with what you're doing now, or do you?
I don't really. I just liked it. I like humans, so was part of like, okay, so I should do that too. Because I was so young, I had the privilege of doing a lot and graduating early still. So so I don't like I said, I don't like letters after my name. I don't think those are important. I think they're important for society, and I rebel a little bit against that. I don't think you need letters in order to be good at what you do. So maybe one day I'll do a PhD. I have some clients of mine that encourage me to do that and say, oh, why don't you do it? Let's do it together, virtually. And maybe, but I'm not like crazy about it. So.
All right. You mentioned quite a few of your attributes and the things that have pushed you in the direction that you went. Do you have an opinion on how much of the way you are is due to your environment as opposed to your genetics that you got from your parents?
Okay. Okay, so I am a firm believer that you are born with certain things, and my family is very educated. My mom has a bunch of degrees, my dad too, but that really wasn't a motivation for me to do that. I don't know about my environment. I don't know. It must have some influence in what I do and who I am, but I don't know about that. I don't know, Charles. That's something I need to think about. I don't know if I was in a different place or a different country, or if I know I would be doing what I'm doing, and that's a fact. But I don't know how different I would be, or if I don't know. That's something for me to think about. I don't know about that.
Okay, fair enough. One of the things that Rob mentioned when we talked to him a little bit was some of his experience as a therapist, going to therapy as a client or as a patient. Is that something you've had experience with? Is that something you like to talk about?
I can talk about that. I love my therapist, even though I drive him crazy.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, I do think that when
hey pot, stop calling the kettle black.
Yeah, I think that when you are so involved in what you do, you just have different ways of looking at things. So when I go to therapy, my therapist, he has fun with me a lot, and I have fun with him a lot. In talking about all kinds of stuff. We don't talk so much anymore about traumas and about overcoming things, or we just talk about life, and we talk about my opinions. I have lots of opinions.
What?
I know, right? And my brain never stops. So I like having him in my life because he has fun with my thoughts. Like, and he says, how do you think all of that? Like how, like, I'm like, I don't know. I just think about things like that, I have so many ideas and so many things I want to do and I want to say and the strategies I want to use. And I think that I learn a lot from him. It's an exchange. I've been with him for over 15 years.
Mm.
So it's a pretty solid relationship and I don't see me with anybody else. I don't want to be with anybody else. And he knows me. He knows like when I'm, bullshitting. And he knows that. He knows, and we laugh about it. So it's a wonderful experience. I don't know how a therapist cannot go through life without a therapist, because if you don't do what you preach, I think you shouldn't be doing what you do.
That makes sense. One of the other things that Rob mentioned when we talked to him was how exhausting it is for him to do a full day of sessions with clients. And he talked a little bit about what he does to sort of let off that steam, that anxiety at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you follow our friend Rob on social media, you'll see he works out quite a bit. And he's got a partner that likes to work out with him. What do you like to do in your free time? What helps you feel like you can get yourself back after a day of listening to my problems and other people who have probably less interesting, less compelling problems than me?
Okay, so first of all, I think it's very important to be who you are, no matter what you are. So, and this is what I tell my clients all the time. And Charles has had that experience, I guess, seeing me out in a restaurant and seeing that, I am who I am. Like, you're not going to see anybody else. If you see me in public doing something, you're not going to see anybody different than the therapist that you see in my office and now virtually. Like, and I think that is important. So you don't have a facade. So you don't have, you're not somebody else when you're in therapy, which it's a lot of work. I am a very, very busy therapist. I work very long days. But I'll tell you this, I love what I do. I have such pleasure in what I do that, and this is something I talk to my therapist about, I don't get tired. I'm tired, but I'm always thinking, I'm always in contact with my clients. I'm a very personal therapist. I select the people that I see and I love all of them. And I have a very strong connection with my clients. So of course it's work. It's a lot of work because it's not only the hour that I see my clients, it's every day, every hour of the day, I'm thinking about strategies and things for my clients to get out, because that's my first lesson in therapy, how to get out, of any situation. So one of my exercises, it's for you to go places and find the exit. Be an expert in finding the exit. So when you go to a movie theater, you look for the exit. When you go to the mall, you look for the exit. So your brain gets used to there is a way out. And when you finally believe that, and when you get used to it, like scanning and exit, you feel more comfortable about any problem you have, any issue you have, because you're going to find a way out. So I have a little ritual that I do in between clients that I feel heavy about. I wash my hands in between clients. I kind of rinse out that energy so I can see another, like my following client, and be fresh for them. And when I'm done with my computer, my work here, I'm never done. Like, I'm calling clients, or I'm responding to emails, or I'm going through things, I'm texting. So I don't know how I don't think I do anything in specific because I don't think it's that hard because it's something I love doing. I get physically tired and my brain gets tired, but it's not like, oh my gosh, I need specifically something in order to, I take vacations. I go to New York a lot. I used to.
Yeah. I was going to.
I really like that. I really like that you, first of all, the exit, first of all, of, just the real simple act of looking at the exits of wherever you are. And that's a nice way to remember, because that's not something everybody does. And so it's going to kind of stick out when it comes time to having a problem or a situation. It's like, okay, there is a way out. And I know just thinking about that, hearing you talk about that already relieved some of my anxiety or a baseline anxiety that I might have in any type of uncomfortable situation. So I love that tip. And the other thing I wanted to ask you about, I like that, that you kind of wash your hands before each client as kind of a ritual. Do you have to take a full shower before you see Charles?
A cold one. A cold one.
Before and after, depending on what we talk about.
Get this off me.
Yeah. No, and I do believe, again, of course, at the end of my day, I do take a long shower. And when I had my office, it was very nice, my drive home, because that was when I thought about my day, when I kind of released worries and things for my clients of that day. And when the pandemic started, I think that it really changed my life, because now I am in this office in my house. And I don't have that. I open the door and I am mom, I'm wife, and it's very difficult not to do that transition. That's why, I wash my hands. I have different rituals to transition from therapist to mom and wife. Yeah.
That feels important. The ability to move through the day, through your different roles. I think we all can struggle with that sometimes, where, feeling like, okay, it's my job right now to be a good husband or be a good boyfriend, but the phone can always ring for work, and then I've got to be able to transfer to that role. And making those transitions can be difficult. So having an anchor to help you with that sounds important. I'm gonna start thinking about that.
Yeah, it's very important.
Charles, I think we already kind of do that, both you and I, because we both talked about wearing V-neck T-shirts for the podcast, and we've been doing that consistently. And I know that, like, my brain has started to associate that kind of ritual of, okay, we put on the V-neck, and I put on, I actually am wearing pants, so before the podcast, and then it kind of puts me in that state of mind of, okay, I'm ready to, to engage with the podcast and think in that respect. And, for my other job, I do the similar thing. Even if I'm not going to be on camera, there's, I put on a polo shirt, whatever that is. And that kind of gets my mind set to, okay, this is the type of work I'm going to be doing and engaging with. But I also like the washing the hands part too. That's,
I love what you're saying, Dan, because I do think it's important, in therapy. It at least what I do is that and Charles probably noticed this, my clients sometimes notice that what I do, like I never dress so the focus is on me. I never put something like, oh, look at Renata, look at her red lipstick, or look at what she's doing. No, I always have my hair back. I never wear anything that it's going to take the attention out of my client. What is it that my client needs to work on? I like that you have a ritual. Both of you have the ritual of putting this V-neck shirt and changing into, okay, this is my kind of job, or this is what I'm going to do. And by wearing this, I become the podcaster.
Yes.
I love that.
I like that. Yeah.
I love that. That is
phrase that better. Yeah.
I love that.
It would be, I would find it very funny if you started dressing up more for our sessions, and then I would unconsciously feel the need to be more dressed than you, and we could just keep going up and up and up until I'm showing up in a tuxedo for our telehealth sessions.
Because it does become important. Your brain says, oh, maybe I'm not dressing right, or maybe I should do something different. And and as a therapist, I don't want that. I don't know. And I've seen other therapists, wearing things that I would never wear, or wearing perfume, or doing things that distract your client from what they need to talk about. Because if I'm wearing a very strong perfume and you come in, it's like, oh gosh, like the whole focus is what is she wearing? What kind of perfume is that? That is too sweet, or that is too strong, or that, and then you're not really thinking about you.
And vice versa, Renata. I was going to say, like, for me, it would be a distraction to listen to try to process the words that you're saying, in addition to having to deal with, the smell of a perfume and a bright lipstick and all these other inputs, whatever. It's challenging enough to just understand and properly remember and process words. And then, so yeah, I agree. Less distractions, the better, at least for my brain.
And I find it interesting. The other day I was wearing something blue. What was it? Just a sweatshirt. It was this week. And one of my clients said, oh my gosh, you're wearing blue? Because usually I wear black or something neutral, very simple, never fancy, never nothing. And I'm like, oh yeah. And she says, oh, what does it say on your, see, it was just like a distraction for her in the session. And I'm like, okay, so let's refocus on this. And she's like, oh, I really like it. Or see, then it's
wow, just a simple color switch, nothing else. That's amazing. That's a great example.
Yeah. And it happens quite a lot. If I, especially in person, people would comment things, like not only specifically about how I dressed, or maybe, oh, you look so, like, you look good today. Like, what did you do yesterday? Or, oh, like, and then it kind of deviates from the client to me.
And, I imagine they're probably looking for those types, even subconsciously looking for those types of easy, fun conversations to have, especially if the work is hard. When they come to therapy, they're going to look for a way to kind of, all right, I'm going to kind of distract myself a little bit with some fun stuff and not have to get into this stuff that makes me uncomfortable.
Oh, I've spent entire sessions trying to come up with other things to talk about besides how I'm feeling.
Wow.
But Charles, you said something important in the podcast. I think it was with Rob that I listened. I liked when you said it, that we have a balance in sessions, because I do think it's important, and it's always strategy. Therapy, it's all strategy. I never, even though I don't have a plan, my plan in the background is therapy. So when I talk about things that are not related to therapy, I'm consciously giving my client a break. And I like that Charles realized that. And when he said it in the podcast, I'm like, oh, good. He understands that sometimes we go a session or two, or 1 session and a half, talking about whatever, that it's not important, trips or things that he has done, or but then we get into, okay, so let's just dive into this, and it's but it's all strategy.
Yeah. And I think they're all necessary, but some sessions are easy and fun, and some of them are not easy nor fun. But they all seem to be required, and I can say that based on the evidence of what my life is like when I'm in therapy versus what it's like when I'm not in therapy. And it's this last round has me convinced that this is going to be a full-time commitment, because the ups and downs, the roller coaster, it's too much to get used to. And it's a common thing with any mental health issues. I mean, people think, okay, I've got some treatment, I'm feeling better, so therefore I don't need the treatment anymore, whether it's people in their medication or going to therapy. And it's those moments when you start feeling like I don't need this anymore are probably the moments when you need it the most.
100%.
I remember when I would do open mic stand-up comedy, there were so many comics that would say, oh, getting on stage and talking for, my 5 minutes, that's my therapy. And my response, and I always look at them and think, no, this is not your therapy. You need actual therapy, probably inpatient.
I think you just didn't like their comedy.
Well, that too.
I think that also when you talk about things that are not in the moment, you're not thinking they're therapeutic, you're building relationship with your clients. And this is something I tell my clients all the time. You're going to get to know me the same way that I think it's just fair that my clients know about me. Of course, not every single detail about me because it's not about me, but my clients, I think all of my clients know my love for New York. They know my love for food. They know, my kid's name. They know my dog's name. They know all the things that are important to me. Because I do believe the trust that we have to exchange, because how fair is it for you to sit with me and only talk about you and you don't know anything about me? How can you trust me?
Right.
So I think that's a very important exchange.
Yeah. And I think it's important for people to find a therapist that is not perfect by any means, but certainly you need to be talking to somebody who's healthier than you are.
That's right.
And because if you spend a bunch of time with a therapist who has more bigger problems than you do, it's not gonna make you better over time. It's gonna make you worse. And I think that in your experience, would you say that there are some people that are drawn to the field out of their dysfunction instead of out of their function?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. And it's very unfortunate. And I do want to apologize to all of the people that have had bad experiences with therapists, because I hear that a lot. Like, I have a client that I am her 17th therapist.
Oof.
That is a lot.
Yeah.
Because can you imagine you going to an office and opening it up and crying and then the person has no empathy. Then you go to another one. 17 times you do that. And it's just unbelievable. Like, and I hear that a lot. Like, oh my gosh, like to find a therapist, it took me months, it took me years, it took me so much. Wow. That it's because again, therapy is not only about the client, in my eyes, not only about the client liking you, it's about you liking your client. Because if you don't like your client, you don't want to find solutions. You don't want to find a way out for that client. You want that client to burn, So it's like, there's no way out. So I believe that I think that there are lots of therapists out there, unfortunately, that don't know what they're doing.
So, Renata, could you offer just a couple of simple tips for somebody who's looking to find a therapist, what they should look for? Just some basic things to help them on their journey so they don't end up having to go through 17 of them before they find somebody they like.
And a follow-up to that is, how much time should you give it before you decide that they're not right for you? Because I assume that based on a patient's issues, they may be too quick to latch onto somebody and stick with somebody they shouldn't, or too quick to say, nah, they're not for me, I'm not going to keep going.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, nowadays, what I do with clients, and I was doing this last night with people that are calling me and I don't have any more space to see anybody, but I have an obligation in my eyes as a therapist to the world, to the population, to help them find, if I cannot help them, find somebody for them. So if like strangers that I don't know, yesterday I was helping this person. And what I do is this: go on psychologytoday.com, put your zip code, and then you're going to find thousands of therapists. And then you have to do your part. You have to read all of those profiles and see which ones kind of go into your heart, and like you go like, okay, I like this person. And then have somebody else, in my case, I asked this person, send me those profiles. Let me look at them for you. Let me see if one of those people I know that I would say, oh, this person is good, or, I don't like this, whatever. And then you have to go with your own judgment, because like me, I'm not for every person. I'm very blunt. I'm very to the point. I can be brutal sometimes. And I know that. So I'm not for everyone. I'm not the fluffy kind of therapist who's going to say, I'm not like that. So, and some people are looking for that. Some people are looking for the fluffy unicorn therapist. I'm not that person. So there are people that come to me and they go, well, maybe this person is not for me because it's too much, and so I don't, unfortunately, it's an interview process, I guess. You just go through it, and having somebody else to help you go through the profiles, or I think it's helpful. And see if that therapist dedicates time to you. Like, that's, to me, is very important. So if I call a therapist and that therapist says, okay, I can see you Monday at 10, and did not ask me a single question, did not say what's going on with you, doesn't show me any kind of interest in what's happening, and only the interest is the appointment time and the day, I'm not interested. But maybe there are people out there that said, oh, that's all I need. I don't need to talk to this person. I just need to come in. So I don't know. It depends on the person.
And how many sessions do you think it takes the average new patient to determine whether they found a good match or not?
I think right away you can tell.
Okay.
I think that your first 2 sessions, you can tell that if you match with that person or not. And I think that it's easier for the client to walk away than for the therapist to say, well, this is not going to work out. And I think it's very difficult to do that part.
Yeah, I imagine it would be. One of the things that just occurred to me, one of the questions I wanted to ask you, our listenership, we assume, is probably mostly men, not exclusively, obviously, but mostly men. What kind of questions should a man ask himself when it comes to deciding if his therapist should be a man or a woman?
It's a very good question. Okay. It depends on your traumas.
Okay.
So in my opinion, if you've had a lot of traumas with women in your life, I would say, and maybe you've had traumas with women, but you bond with women more, you should look for a female therapist. If you have had a lot of traumas with men, and if you're intimidated by men, you should see a female therapist. Now, if you don't have any of those, my therapist is a male, so I like the thought process of a male, with me, and I get along really well with males. So it's, so it depends on your traumas, and it depends on your preference, I guess, of what. Now, if you go to a therapist because it's easy, then, oh, I like her or I like him, that's why I'm going to go with this person. Then you got to think about why you like that person. Why do you think it's easy? Why? And then it's really not really therapeutic.
Okay.
So would you say it bases the decision really should be more on where there's going to be the least amount of friction for
Not necessarily.
Okay. In terms of, do you tend to kind of get along with women better than men, and that's where you want to go, basically?
Yeah, you kind of,
or vice versa.
But also you should challenge yourself. So it depends on the person.
Okay.
It could be that you never thought about going to a female therapist, but once you go, you really bond with that person. And it could be that you say, I only want to see a female, and you have a male, you go like, oh, I really like it. So it depends. It really depends on also the therapist and how willing they are to help you,
Yeah, I think it's an interesting challenge we recently just finished our analysis and our review of No More Mr. Nice Guy. And I think it's a real challenge for the kind of guys that book applies to, because most quote unquote nice guys, they feel like they don't have a lot in common with other men. They feel like they're better than other men. I don't have the problems. I'm not brutal. I'm not a sexist. I'm not, fill in the blank like other guys are. I'm better than that. I'm more evolved than that. And I think that might prompt them to make certain decisions in their therapy that might not lead to their overall health. But I could see really both choices being good for guys like that, because on the one hand, they probably have some issues with the relationship they had with their mother, and they probably have some issues with the relationship they had or didn't have with their father. So yeah, I guess it's not a very easy answer for those kind of guys to decide which direction to go in.
Yeah. And also, if you go with the principle that you are not sexist, that you're not this and you're not that, it might be that you are all of those things and you're just,
Yes.
and that could be your problem. That
Yes.
could be your main problem, that you think you're not when you really are. So, so it all depends.
Yeah, we definitely find that in the text of the book, a lot of guys who do have that, they take pride and they generate a whole identity about, oh, I'm not like other guys. And it's like, no, in a lot of ways you're worse, because you're repressing all of this, all the things that make you a man. You have decided when you were a little boy, those things are evil and you need to repress them. And so they come out in ways that are extremely toxic and unhelpful to the people you're around.
And also at this point, when they're saying, oh, let's create this new culture of I am not like those other guys, they're also discriminating. They're also, discriminating against guys. They're not, you know what I mean? They're separating themselves. They're creating a new group that it's also part of the problem.
Yeah. All right. Well, one question I promised I would ask, again, we've been seeing each other for 10 years. So in 60 minutes or less, tell our audience what my problem is.
Was that question for me?
Go ahead, Dan.
Dan, go ahead and answer that. I'll probably agree with it.
I'm too compassionate. I care too much. I sacrifice too much for the people I love.
Well, I'm not answering that. I told you. I'm not going to break.
Fair enough. That's fair. So maybe you could answer it in this way. When someone who's in my life, like a romantic partner, says to me, Charles, what's your problem? What should I tell them?
Talk to Renata.
Yeah. Renata's hard.
Let's book a couple session. Should that be my answer?
Where do you want to start?
Well, let me say this. If you're only dating that person, I would probably not see you as a couple.
Okay. So how serious should a romantic relationship be before you take them to therapy with you?
Well, I do believe that if you are in a relationship and you're boyfriend and girlfriend and you're in a committed relationship, and I'm not saying you're not in a committed relationship, you are. If you're looking for therapy in the stages of boyfriend and girlfriend, you should find another boyfriend and another girlfriend.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's insightful. That's interesting.
Because why would you work on something that you're not even 100% committed to? There's so many other people out there that could accept you and love you and have a better relationship than you struggling to be accepted and loved by somebody who is clearly not loving you and accepting you back. So I know a lot of people criticize me for that. And they say that, oh, but I want to, work on my relationship and you don't want to see me. Yeah, I really don't, because I really don't think we should work on it. I mean, you don't you don't have a child with that person. You don't have a house with that person. You don't have a banking account with that person. You don't have any ties with that person. You just met that person in the bar and now you're dating for 3 months and you're in therapy. Well, clearly, maybe you should just look for another person. And I know this is it could create a lot of issues when people hear me out with this, but it is exactly how I think, and I'm not changing my mind.
Well, okay. Well, let me ask a follow-up on that. So what if one of the people in the couple is already your client and
that person could visit our session?
Okay.
But I don't see the point of doing couples therapy.
Gotcha.
That person. Yeah. And I am big into knowing everybody in the family. So if I am seeing you, I would like to meet your girlfriend, your best friend, your aunt, if they're visiting your parents, or I like that. Your grandmother, okay. I like that. But that doesn't mean I'm going to do a session with you and that person. Gotcha. They can visit my session and it's fine. They're visitors.
All right. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that speaks to the amount of work that therapy actually is. If you're not willing to commit, I think, Renata, what I'm hearing you say is if you're not willing to commit to each other in some fashion, that you're not going to have the energy to kind of make it through a lot of these difficult conversations and changes and work that is really involved in going to therapy consistently. So that was my takeaway is that you think that's accurate?
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, because therapy is a lot of work. It's not, it's a lot of work. And why you're going to put so much work in something that could be temporary, and I am a big believer that you change behaviors and you adapt, but you don't change your core. You cannot change certain things in you because they're part of who you are. And you don't want to change those things at the end of the day because those things are you. So if you become somebody else for somebody else, then you lose yourself. And that's another therapeutic issue.
And
I remember a couple of weeks ago, we had a session where you said something that I really enjoyed. It got a lot out of, where you said that I'm always going to be a pepper. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Would you mind expanding on that a little bit? Because I thought it was great. It was it helped me. It made me feel better.
Yeah. I mean, you're always going to be a pepper in the sense of like, you're always going to be spicy. You always, not everybody's going to like you, that is, and it depends on the taste of the person who is eating you, who's having you for dinner or lunch. It's what's going to happen. Like, so you're always going to be that. You're always going to, and you know what? It's okay to be a pepper. And
I just got to work on being a Belle and not a Carolina Reaper.
You can be whatever pepper you want to be, and then people can choose to have you or not.
Yeah, but only crazy people like ghost peppers.
Well, maybe that's what you need.
No, I don't want that.
So I do think there's a taste for everything, and I don't want anybody changing who they are because we lose the purpose.
Well, where does a person figure out where to draw that line of how do I separate my unhealthy behaviors from who I am as a person?
Okay, so when you start believing that you need to change certain things because this other person is bothered by certain things, then you need to think, okay, is this a behavior that it's a learned behavior? It's a habit, it's a protection, or this is who I am? Because, so if you tell me, Renata, in order for us to have a relationship, you cannot be as blunt as you are. Well, sorry. It's not going to happen. Right. I can measure my words a little bit, and maybe I can have good days where I am thinking about everything I say and, I'm measuring and I'm being as nice as I can. But eventually, I'm going to tell you something brutal pretty soon. I mean, because it's just the way I am built.
Yeah.
Same thing. Oh, you need to be on time. Well, it's not going to happen. It could happen once. It's a behavior that I need to change, but I think it's ingrained in me. I think, and we laugh about this, I think it's culturally, I don't know, but it's just part of who I am. I honestly, I don't remember being on time. I wasn't on time for my wedding. I wasn't on time. Like today I was on time. I don't know how, but again, this is just something that it's something that I can adapt sometimes, but don't count on that. Don't count I'm going to be on time.
See, I'm convinced that you could change that if you got a compelling enough argument and you had the stakes were high enough. I'm sure you can make that happen. I mean, I feel no investment to try to make that happen for you. I don't care. I know that I need to be on our session by 15 after the hour, and you'll roll in right around then.
Yeah. And you know what? And I stay 15 minutes after.
Right.
So it's not, so it's not that it's like, and I tell my clients who have that expectation of me, day one, I tell them. If
some of
late,
So some other core behaviors, perhaps like sense of humor, might be something that is not something that could be, is easily changed, right? That's really kind of what you find amusing or funny, maybe what you find sad. I think those are things that really can't or shouldn't be changed.
That's right.
Would you agree?
Yeah. If you find a partner who says, Dan, I don't want you laughing at this. This is not funny. Well, guess what? Then unless it's something horrible that you're laughing about, I understand it's racism, or if it is some discrimination, or then we need to work on that. But if you laugh because, I don't know, you had cold milk and you think that's funny,
fart humor, whatever, right?
Exactly. Why are you going to change that for a person that you just met 2 months ago? Like, no. Yeah. Like, this is who you are, and acceptance needs to happen. You can adapt behaviors, and I am all pro that, adapting behaviors, and but you can't change the core of you, and you shouldn't change that.
Yeah, I would say you definitely, even if you think horrible things are funny, and there are some things I think are funny that many people would consider to be horrible. Nothing on the list you just mentioned. I just want to put that out there. But you can't, there's probably nothing I could do to change the fact that I think some things are funny. I can change the fact that I cannot laugh about them, though, if it's going to bother somebody.
That's right. And can you imagine being with a person who's going to shush you all the time? See, I have clients that live abusive relationships that, or like all the time, for the husband or the wife or the partner will go like, oh, don't be loud. Oh, don't do this. Oh, why do you need to be the life of the party? Or why do you need to be so extrovert? Why? And when they get out of that, they don't even know who they are anymore, because they have been so suppressed. Either they go really crazy and they want to do everything they haven't done in 20 years in 2 days, or, they're very confused and like, sheltered to a point where they don't even know who they are, which is very sad. Very sad. So my advice, if you are in a relationship that it's killing who you are, maybe you should rethink that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, let's see. Let me go back to my list.
Questions?
Yes, I think I had something else. Yeah, I wanted to ask you about, and this is something I've asked our other two guests, I believe, which is, why is it that the ways we come up with for coping with stress or anxiety, like the ways that occur to us of, oh, I'm feeling badly about this, I'm feeling stressed, I'm feeling anxious, every time we go with a strategy to fix that, we always pick the wrong thing. Why is it that has to be a learned behavior to address our stress and anxiety, where our instinct is always wrong? We always think, okay, here's the way I'll make myself feel better. At least in my case, it's always wrong.
Okay, so here's what I encourage all of my clients to feel. So if you're feeling bad, allow yourself to go through that process of feeling bad. Don't work on changing that right away. Allow yourself to cry, feel bad, make, like be in bed all day, because you won't be really cry all day. You won't really, physiologically, that is impossible, but I think that your instincts are not wrong because you want to get out, but sometimes you should stay a little bit in order to analyze the situation. I'll give you an example. So if you are in a movie theater and you sit down, you've been in therapy for a long time. So the first thing you do, you look at the exit sign. You say, okay, I'm safe. If this is burning, this is where I'm going to go. And then, in fact, the theater starts burning. Well, what you do, instead of getting up right away and start running towards the exit, maybe you should sit down for a second or two and analyze the situation and allow yourself to see, okay, should I go this direction? Should I go backwards, like what everybody's running? So analyzing the situation for a little bit will help you to make the better decision. So you will get out, but maybe not as fast as everybody else. And I don't want you sitting long enough that you burn with the theater. But I do think that you should sit down for a little bit and analyze your surroundings before you make a decision of how you're going to get out. That's why I think people make the wrong decisions, or because they make it too fast and they're too desperate to get out.
Yeah, I've definitely felt that myself, where it's like when those feelings start coming up, you instantly feel like you're in a struggle for your life, even though you really aren't. I mean, things aren't that bad, but that's what it feels like in the moment.
That's right.
And so, you feel bad and you immediately figure, okay, I've got to do something right now to save my life. When that's almost in modern Western society, that's almost never the case.
That's right. That's
so,
right.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like just really try to, feel those emotions and let them kind of just ease up a little bit enough and give yourself some time and space to let the other part of your brain to put some logical thoughts around it and not act purely, not making those physical, those decisions based purely from an emotional state, and just give it a little bit of time and space so that you can put some context around it and maybe go, okay, this is the right decision or this is not the right decision. But in order to get there, you're going to be uncomfortable. You're going to have to feel those feelings. Yeah.
Sure. If you think about the movie theater situation, Dan, you want to get out. You feel the flames.
Feeling the heat. Yeah.
You know it's burning. You see people getting hurt all around you.
Oh.
You see it all happening. And again, you sitting down and waiting a little bit to get out. It gives a lot of anxiety. It gives you a lot of like, oh my gosh, like, am I doing the right thing? I'm not doing the right thing. Should I just, but if you go too fast, you could be stumped. You could die in a different way, but not because of the burning theater. Again, this is what I encourage my clients to think about. Yes, you need to think about the way out in whatever situation you're in, but you have to live that moment for a while so you can see clearly how to get out. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I like that. It helps, I guess, build practice when you're looking for the exits, so that when, the more you practice it, the more instinctual, you'll build those patterns in your brain so that it's not such a struggle to sit there a little bit and give it that time and space. So yeah. I like that.
For sure. Yeah.
All right. That does it for my questions. Renata, do you have anything you'd like to share as far as where people can go and find out more about you and, desperately try to get on your super filled schedule?
Okay. Well, I do have an Instagram account, rediscover_counseling. I do have a Brazilian account, also rediscover_counseling_BR. Have a YouTube channel, but I think it's Rediscover Counseling. I don't even know the name of it. I think it is Rediscover Counseling.
We'll put a link to it in the notes for the episode.
I don't know, but and that's it, I guess. And it was a pleasure being here with the two of you. I really like what you guys are doing, and that's why I'm sitting here on a Saturday morning, because I like the dedication to mental health. I like that you guys are reaching out to people and wanting them to understand more about what happens in the brain and how we can get out of situations. I loved it. So I'm very, very happy to be part of this process.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm thrilled to have you on here, and I hope we can do it again.
Definitely grateful.
Anytime.
Very helpful information today, Renata. Thank you so much.
Of course. And I hope you guys have a wonderful day.
You too.
You know where to find me.
I'll talk to you on Wednesday.
I know, right?
If not sooner.
Right? Yeah. If you don't text me right away, which I know you will. And I love that. You can keep on texting me. I love it. All right. So have a wonderful day, guys. Thank you for inviting me. Hopefully this is going to boom. I really think you guys are amazing. So I'm all for this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
All right, guys.
Have a great Saturday.
Have a great weekend. Take care now.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks so much for spending time with us on the Mindfully Masculine podcast. If you liked the episode, or you think it would be useful for someone else, please leave us a review and join the Mindfully Masculine group on Facebook. Remember, fellas, don't act masculine, be masculine.